can't always be everyone's friend. And if we're shying away from accountability, then that's failing them as well as the company. Because you don't always have to be the most knowledgeable. If you have that confidence, then people will trust you.
What do you think separates a good salesperson from a great one?
Communication is huge. I think they go with companies they trust and is going to be there to solve their problems.
So like, how do you build that strong relationship from the beginning?
I think for me, a lot of it is matching their energy, showing an interest in their company, forming that bond right off the bat, and I think that's huge. I think sometimes maybe not listening to the customer enough, talking too much about the product, letting them talk, letting them express what their issues are.
So today on ASAP Unfiltered, I have Mr. Bryan Skurka. Thank you for coming. He came all the way from Arizona.
Yeah.
He is our sales manager there. Been in the industry for over a decade.
Yeah, at least.
A long time. Started as a tech and worked his way up, and he's been with us for a while now. So we're excited to have you leading our sales team.
Yes.
All right. Is there anything you want to add to tell us a little bit about your story on how you got into the door industry?
So actually my dad started a residential company when I was 2 years old. So I've been doing doors my whole life. When I was, 10, I was sweeping floors and, grabbing him tools and doing those kind of things to give him a hand. So kind of got into it at an early age. And then I got in with a commercial door company after he sold the business. Just wanted to stay in the industry. I really liked it. I thought it was a great opportunity for a, good career path. So I've been, doing doors pretty much forever.
So this is literally all you've done, right?
I've had some other like odd and end jobs, like summer jobs, like working at I worked like a meat market one summer,
Okay.
which was good because I was actually dealing with like customers and stuff like that. So I did have some of that customer support, I guess you would call it, which kind of helped me with the sales aspect of my job.
Okay, so I do want to talk a lot about like leadership and how you lead a sales team. But I do want to talk about as well, like how did you know that you wanted to be in sales versus, just being a technician in the field?
So when I was in the field, I was really good at recommending repairs, selling them on site. I would gain good rapport with these customers. So I really liked interacting with the customer, kind of solving their needs. So to me, wasn't necessarily like sales as much as it was helping them with a solution, finding the solution to their problem. So I really enjoyed doing that. So when the opportunity came in for sales, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I heard someone say, and I think I sent you this too, it was like replace the word sale with help and you'll always win if you were like putting the customer's need front of mind.
Yeah, I think that's why I've always been successful with sales is because I'm not trying to be that pushy salesman. I'm trying to solve their problem. They call us because there's an issue and, it's our job to advise them, the best solution for that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Jumping into kind of a leadership perspective, what do you think separates a good salesperson from a great one?
Communication is huge. I know we talked about that a lot.
Yeah, we're big on that.
The customer wants to know that we're involved the whole step of the way. Hear other companies will go out, they give a quote, and then the customer never hears from them again. So for me, what I try to, instill in my guys is great communication. As soon as we send that quote, we're following up with them, making sure they received it, see if they have any questions, making them feel good about the whole process. I think they go with companies they trust, is going to take care of them and is going to be there to solve their problems. So
Yeah.
I think companies that do that or salesmen that do that are a lot more successful.
Yeah. And I would think that it starts from the first interaction on site. Because I know from personal experience, if someone comes in to quote something for me, but I didn't vibe with them when they were originally here, I won't even answer their follow-up calls because I don't, I just am avoiding them pretty much. And I feel like when I hear sales guys say, oh, I'm calling and calling and nobody's answering, I'm like, well, why, what happened on site to where they don't want to answer your calls is what comes to my mind. So how do you build that strong relationship from the beginning?
I think for me, a lot of it is matching their energy, because sometimes I go to these certain customers and they might be a little bit lower energy, and it doesn't mean we're not interacting and talking and, finding their pain points, but we're not going to come in as this super high strung, animated person. But then there's times where you do get people who are like that, and I kind of have to, rise to their level. So that way, right off the bat, they kind of get a good, feeling about me, or, they feel comfortable, I guess, is the main thing. And then just showing an interest in their company and stuff. A lot of these people love companies they work for and what they do. So I'll ask questions about, their facility, themselves. Arizona, the big thing is nobody's really from that. Very few people around there are from Arizona, so that's a good thing to kind of talk about. And then you kind of start to get to know a little bit of their background, where they're from, what they're into and stuff like that. So it's kind of like just kind of forming that bond right off the bat, and I think that's huge, and that is helps us be successful.
Yeah. Do you think that comes naturally to people, or do you need to train and coach on
I
that?
think it's definitely something that mostly comes natural, but there's definitely opportunity to train with that.
Like, that was a great answer. I don't think most people would have answered that way. So, like, I don't think most people think, like, come in and match their energy and ask about them,
Right.
they just
Yeah.
say try to be personal and small talk.
Yeah.
Nobody likes small talk, so how are you
No.
actually gonna relate to them?
Yeah, and I mean, I think we all experience that when sales people come to my home,
Yeah.
for different things. There's certain people where I'm like, man, this guy is just way too like intense, and it kind of turns you off a little bit, or
Yeah.
vice versa. If they're just kind of a dud, then it's like you don't have that good feeling about them. So I think it's just kind of, coming in pretty neutral, but also matching their energy is huge.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. What standards do you refuse to compromise on as a sales leader?
One thing I really strive for is these guys to get these quotes out in a very timely manner. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is when we let quotes sit for too long. I strive for getting that quote out quick, taking care of the customer quick so they can move on to, other issues that they have. A lot of these people at facilities, maintenance, they have a ton of things on their end that they need to take care of. So I think the quicker we can get that quote out, the more likely it is to be approved.
Yeah.
Less likely they're gonna call other companies, shop around. I think that's a very important thing to me.
Yeah, and I think it's good to know, like, who our client base is. Like, if we're going for commercial property managers, facility managers, they wanna be communicated to a certain way, and it's
Yep.
usually quick, concise, and, like, to the
Yeah,
point because they're busy. They're managing
absolutely.
millions of square footage, and they don't care about their doors, but they want them fixed.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
knowing who your customer base is.
It's one of those things I think a lot of people take for granted, doors, until they're not working,
Yeah.
and then they're
Yeah.
like, "Man, I need to get this fixed," and they want it fixed fast. So
Yes.
I think that's where we can come in and be, a step above the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the biggest mistakes you see salespeople making? And it doesn't have to be necessarily our team, right? Like, just
Yeah.
in general from your experience in sales.
I think sometimes maybe not listening to the customer enough. They go in with an idea of what they want to do and not really listening to the customer's pain points or the reason the customer is calling us or what problem we're really trying to solve. And that can go hand in hand with just like talking too much about the product in a way that the customer can't understand.
Yeah.
They get too technical, and they're not put in layman's terms. And I think sometimes it gets customers kind of like confused about what we're talking about or what we're trying to sell them or help them with. So I think just letting them talk, letting them express what their issues are, so that way we can solve it in the best way possible.
Yeah, I think I see that most often when it's people coming from, like, the technician side into
Yeah.
sales, and yes, they have a ton of technical knowledge and they wanna show that, but you do lose the customer at some point when you start talking like
Yeah.
that.
And I think that's the hardest part when they come out of the field is that they have to be so technical and impress the people with their knowledge. And then we can impress them with what we end up selling them and how we solve their problems.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, we don't have to be showing off necessarily. We can just kind of show off with our work and what we recommended. And then, it'll speak for itself.
Yeah. Okay, this is a good one. How do you balance accountability with support?
And that can be tough. I think it's something that we need to support them when we feel like they're struggling, but then hold them accountable when they're just not doing things they're supposed to be doing. So we have standard SOPs that need to be followed, and if they're not following those, that's a problem, and that's where accountability needs to come in. But if there's coaching involved where they're doing it, but maybe just not the best way possible, I think that's where we can come in and kind of coach them and get them to where it starts with doing the procedures, right? If they're not doing it, it's hard for us to coach them. I think that's where I kind of, if they're doing everything, now it's time to coach. But if they're not doing these things, then that's a bigger problem. They need to be held accountable.
Right. And I mean, for me, of course, I like own the company, so I think of it differently. But to me, it's like if you're not following the procedures, that's like a core value problem, integrity problem
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. We all need to be doing the same procedures, doing everything the same way. So everything works efficiently from, one department to the next.
Right. And I think people don't think of it this way, but like you want to make sure that customer has the same experience every time. You don't want them to have a different experience based off of who's, serving them at that time.
Yeah,
So that's also a
absolutely.
big part of the procedures.
Yep, totally.
What do top performers do consistently that average performers don't? If it's different than what we've already talked about with
Yeah.
communication and speed.
Yeah, I think in the communication, I think they follow all the procedures, they do all the steps correctly, they're following up, consistently. So I think the top performers get that there's a process in place for a reason, and they kind of stick to that, or kind of stick to their own, like, that recipe. Because I mean, I think that's where you see the successful people. It aligns with them completing the tasks and completing the procedures correctly and
Consistency.
consistently. Yeah.
Okay. Has your leadership style changed since stepping into the sales management role with us?
I think that there are people who have been doing this. There's a couple different sales reps we have in our team, right? And some of them are doing it for a while, and some of them, are new to it. So it's kind of taken a little bit of both of the experience and the lack of experience, and trying to like mend that together to come in with like one consistent like approach, I guess, if that makes sense, to the team. So it's like I've always had sales reps below me who are pretty new to it, and I kind of like coaching that and developing them and kind of molding them into the way I want to do it. But then you also get older sales reps who, kind of like teaching an old dog new tricks.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're set in their ways and they have a certain or idea of how things should be done. It might not totally align with what we want to do here. So it's just kind of getting them to kind of see the reasoning behind things, the benefits of doing it. So I think it's just, like I said, just mending the two together and coming in with one consistent, voice or approach.
Yeah. What's one leadership lesson that you've learned the hard way?
You can't always be everyone's friend. A lot of times, we get really close to the people we work with and have good relationships with the people we work with. But at the end of the day, we're here to train them and teach them to do things the right way. And if we're shying away from accountability and not holding them accountable for things that they're not doing correct, just because we don't want to hurt their feelings, or we think we're friends with them, then that's failing them as well as the company. So I think I've learned that I've gotten close with people I've managed. Not that we can't be friends, but there's definitely a
It
line
blurs
there.
the lines a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've been there. Last question on our main block of questions.
Yeah.
If you could give one piece of advice to someone looking to build a successful sales career, what would it be?
To be a good leader, you need to lead by example. So if we're not doing our procedures and what we're supposed to be doing as a leader, it's hard for people below us to see that and think that, oh, I need to follow these rules, but my manager doesn't. So I think one thing I'd recommend is that lead by example, and I feel like you'll be a lot more successful and your team will have a lot more respect for you.
Yeah. I mean, just like I don't want to overweight gym coach, right? Like you're
Yeah.
same concept, but people think of it, don't think of it when it's their own role. Okay, you ready for rapid fire?
Sure.
Okay. Best follow-up method.
I like to call initially, but I've been finding, and recently, text is very successful.
Yes.
I have a lot of success with that. It used to be the call communication, but nowadays people don't always answer their phones. Text, everyone reads it, and it's easy for them to just kind of give you a quick response. And I feel like once you start texting with some of these customers, you're kind of gaining that like deeper rapport and that like almost a friendship in a sense that, and I have a couple customers like that I'm texting with almost every day. Whether I'm working on a project with them or not, I'm checking out old projects. And I just think, for me, I think the optimal communication right now is through text.
Okay. Coffee or energy drinks?
Coffee.
Best way to motivate a sales team?
Lead by example. Show them the way, and they will follow.
Knowledge or confidence?
I think confidence, because you don't always have to be the most knowledgeable about everything, but if you have that confidence, then people will trust you.
Top performer with a bad attitude, coach or move on?
I think eventually, at first, we try to coach, and if we don't see a change or we don't see them being receptive to the coaching, then it's time to move on.
Accountability or empathy first?
I think accountability.
I'm with you on that, but I've been called unempathetic, so that's normal for me. I'm working on it.
I tend to be too. But yeah, I think accountability is huge. I think there's a little bit of empathy for the beginning, but then it gets to the point where, it's got to be accountability.
Yeah. Most underrated sales skill?
Communication. I feel like people don't value that for how important it is.
I mean, especially now, I think the younger generation doesn't even know how to communicate. So, like, having those skills are gonna get you really far.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, hardest customer type.
The penny pincher. The one that doesn't, they're looking for the cheapest company,
Those are always the
cheapest
biggest pain in the
product.
ass.
And not that we can't offer these options, but I feel like sometimes that they're, kind of kicking themselves after in some cases because they're trying to be cheap and you end up paying for it in the long run. So why not just do it right and, the company that you trust.
Yep. If your team could describe you in one word, what would it be?
I don't want this to sound easygoing, I would say, which I don't know if that could come off as, I think I'm a kind of a laid back style manager as opposed to, I like to let people do their thing until like I need to do accountability. So I'm pretty easygoing.
Okay. That might be 2 words. Hyphen, easy going.
Easygoing, yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, that's all I have for you. Thank
Okay.
you so much
Yes,
for coming
thank you
in.
for
I
having
hope
me.
you
It was
enjoy
awesome.
North Carolina. And if
love
you
it.
could show everybody your swag
Yeah.
you got on here,
Check
it's
it
got on
out.
the support your local tradesman shirt, ASAP commercial doors hat. I didn't even make him wear this. He just loves it.
I love it. It's my uniform.
All right. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.